Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to today's webcast on impactful analytics for your field force. My name is Liz McCreech and I head up our analytics practice at Thorogood, as well as having over 20 years experience in the business intelligence arena. I'm joined today by my colleague Ahmad, who is one of our leading experts in delivering solutions via mobile devices, and we'll be sharing some of our real-life experiences with you today. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to reach out via the WebEx chat panel, and we'll answer them either at the end of the session or follow up with you after the event. You can also feel free to email either Ahmad or myself at the email addresses you can see on the screen. So the objective today is to share some of our experience with you in order to help you understand how mobile reporting is being used within your industry, and maybe highlight some areas where you could be further empowering your off-site workers with these tools. Having the ability to directly interact with your reports and provide deep dive analysis while talking face-to-face with your customers, I think is a must-have capability. We'll be demonstrating these solutions using a variety of tools to help you maybe understand some of the different look and feel options, and also highlight some of the different features you may need to consider. For those of you who aren't familiar with Thorogood, we're a professional services firm who specialise in business intelligence and analytics, so we deal with strategies, solutions and services. Our clients are some of the leading organisations in the insurance, banking, consumer goods, pharmaceutical and healthcare areas, and we service them globally via our leveraged teams from our UK, US and Indian offices. We recruit and train consultants to have a unique mix of skills. We combine business knowledge within industry and functional areas with excellent technical capabilities, as well as deep understanding of analytical techniques and tools. This enables us to see the business benefits, as well as understanding how technology can be an enabler. So we partner with the industry leaders within the BI and analytics landscape. For some of the more specialist areas, we partner with key vendors such as Anaplan and TM1 for planning and budgeting, SAS for analytics, and DataSift for social media data. But during today's session, we'll be demonstrating Microsoft's Datazen products, QlikView and Tableau. In addition to that, we'll also provide you with some high-level information on Roam BI, Business Objects Mobile, and Salesforce Wave. So now I'm going to hand you over to Ahmad, and I'll return a little bit later to talk you through one of the solutions we've developed for a life sciences company.
Thanks, Liz. Hi, everyone. I'd also like to thank you for joining us today. So why are we doing a webcast on reporting for the field force? At Thorogood, we've been creating reporting solutions for field forces within organisations for a long time, and more recently various technology drivers have enabled to cater for this group in more unique ways. But it's not just about mobile. There's specific use cases for a field force who's interacting with customers or partners, which calls for various considerations. Mobile reporting products have been out there for a few years, but whereas previously there were perhaps more niche vendors leading the way in this area, we're now seeing some of the big players develop their offerings into much more mature and complete products. And this is valuable for organisations who have already invested in licenses or the training and knowledge acquisition with these products, and allows them to leverage these investments. Some products we'll be looking at have offline capabilities, and this can be really powerful as it gives the user the freedom to ask new questions of the data as and when they come up in a conversation. And with mobile reporting being an area that, again, may not be so new technology speaking, but it's something that may not be pervasive in all organisations. It's something that we've helped organisations with building their understanding of their return on investment in building a business case for it, and perhaps starting with pilot to test the waters in terms of assessing usage among target users and evaluating the technologies for the best fit. An increasing number of organisations moving to cloud-based CRM systems such as Salesforce, which can be easily accessed on the move. We're seeing quite a bit of interest in creating a seamless experience between the reports that they view and Salesforce, which are used to enter information. And there's a few options available for delivering this kind of experience, which we'll be looking at later today. And with this target user base, we see that they're interested in being able to analyse a variety of data sources which come from different places with potentially different levels of granularity, all in the same reporting application. And this is something that, of course, brings us back to the more traditional work that we do in BI, and that's helping to bring together these different data sets in a way that makes sense. This might include linking sell-in data, which is the organization's sales to sell-out data, which is what the retailers sell to the end consumers, to get a view of profitability. Or you might want to bring in data from your CRM application about promotional campaigns and link that to your sales to see the impact. I found it quite interesting to see in a recent Gartner CIO agenda survey some of the key technology priorities of Chief Information Officers for 2016 involve some of the key concepts that we'll be covering today. So BI, cloud, mobile and CRM. So it's an area that presents opportunities that are becoming ripe as they stand to benefit from both technologies that are maturing and the increased focus from within businesses on the aspects that support it. And the aim of this webinar is to familiarise you with some of the options available and also really to help spark some ideas on what sort of reporting and analytics solutions you could deliver for these kinds of users in your organisation. Today we'll be looking at potential use cases, specific customer examples and demos across the CPG, pharmaceuticals and financial services industries. And we'll be starting off with CPG and Pharma, which have got some commonalities. So in a typical scenario in these sectors, there's sales reps that go out into retailers, distributors and stores that sell their products in order to carry out audits. And in some cases they replenish their stock and they have conversations around what opportunities are arising and what issues there might be. As a sales rep, I can compare sales of products in a particular store I'm working with to similar stores in the region. For the products where the sales are lower, I'd like to try and understand the reasons behind that. And having a view of the wider data, I can start to do this. For example, by looking at the audit data, I might see that the product is often out of stock, so it's not that it's unpopular, but the demand is actually higher than the current supply to the store. So if we increase the orders, I can expect the sales to increase as well. Another way to look at that is for a sales rep who carries stock to their visits. So I might be interested in knowing which products tend to have low availability or are most often out of stock across all stores. That way I can stock up on the right products before my visits, and it helps me distribute these more evenly when I'm out visiting stores. And when I'm in the store, I can look at this data for that particular store and I can go on to show this trend to the store manager as a point of conversation around whether they need to look at increasing the quantity of their orders for this product or perhaps the frequency of the orders. And the sales reps often have targets of how many visits they have to make per day, for example. They can monitor how they're doing against these targets as the day goes on, so they can better manage their time in each store and to get help if they need it. If there's a product that's currently being promoted, I'd be interested in looking at whether the sales increased by the amount that I'd expect it to in a particular store. I could use an average of the sales increase across the stores as a benchmark. And if it's not performing well, I can discuss this with the store manager again to try and identify the reasons behind it. Perhaps we can get more benefit from investing in the promotion of another product here. Or if I find that it is performing exceedingly well, then I can discuss this with them again to get insights on what they think the major factors are. And maybe I'll get feedback that I can share with other customers to help improve their performance as well. I can also look at market share data to see how much of my company's products contribute to the overall sales value or volume for this retailer, for a particular product category, for example. If it's particularly low, I can discuss this with the retailer to understand why this might be. Are my competitors giving them better deals or discounts, or the products they're offering perhaps more suitable for this retailer's market? If, on the other hand, the margins they're making, for example, from our products are higher, then this might be giving me some leverage in negotiations that we're having. And I can use measures such as average sales value or volume to identify our high-value customers or customers that are at risk of performing poorly, and I can use this to prioritize the stores that I visit. And some of the reporting apps that we'll be looking at today also have GPS, allow integration of GPS data, so I can find a distance to the stores based on where I currently am as well. An example of a recent project we delivered for a major tobacco company. It's a reporting solution which aimed to be a one-stop shop for their field force. It was initially aimed at sales reps, but it's now also being used by their managers. So sales reps are regularly traveling and going into stores, and they use it through an app on their iPads, which allows them to view the reports when they're offline as well. and the managers, who are based in their offices, view the reports on their desktop browsers. The focus of the report is on the data that's stored in Salesforce. This includes both some of the master data about customers and products, as well as the transactional data that's entered by the sales reps as they make visits to the stores. They actually found that they wouldn't be able to hold all the historical data they wanted in Salesforce for the price they wanted to pay for its storage, so data is regularly brought back into an on-premise operational data store in a SQL database, which a reporting tool then sits on top of. The reports enable the sales reps to monitor their own performance to see if they're hitting their quotas, and also their manager to monitor that of all the sales reps that they manage. This includes KPIs like average number of stores visited per day, number of orders taken and number of orders carried out per store, a breakdown of their time by activity, as well as the ability to drill down to the details of these activities. It also helps the sales reps to analyze the performance of the stores that they're visiting, and they use this as points of discussion with them. This is mainly around the audits that they carry out, which track measures like the availability of products, the number of times they were out of stock, their payments, and whether they're pricing the products at the recommended retail price. They can see a history of their status across these measures to see if there's recurring issues and if they are improving over time in the areas where there are issues. They can also see all of this data at a product level across all stores to see if there's trends that are not limited to a single store, which need to be addressed from a wider perspective. So I'm going to be showing you a demo report that we've created for a sales rep in a CPG scenario. This is based on various reports that our customers use, including the example we just discussed. But of course, all the data is anonymized, as it will be in all the other demos you'll see today. And we've used Datazen for this demo today. That's a product that Microsoft acquired in April last year. And this is a tool that really takes a mobile-first approach to reporting. And today I'm using their native app on the iPad, but it's also available for Android devices and can be accessed through a desktop or mobile browser. So I'm just going to be sharing my screen from my iPad with you, and I'm using an app called AirServer, which is an app available through the App Store. So you should be able to see what I'm doing on the iPad as I move around. I'm going to go ahead and open up Datazen, and the first screen that you see there is a KPI screen, and these are particular high-level figures that we've chosen to place here so we can see them with a quick glance. I'm just going to go ahead and move on to dashboards and browse to our first demo today. So this is the availability dashboard, and it's used to see the availability of products across stores and product categories. It's automatically filtered to stores that the reps work with. So when I look at the filter here, these are the stores that the rep is working with. And Datazen allows the user identity to be passed through as a parameter in queries to filter on the data source directly. And I'll talk about this a bit more later. We also have a product category filter here. I'm going to go ahead and select deodorants. The chart at the top shows the percentage of products that were available in the last audit of each month for this store. And these are the blue bars. And the orange line behind it, that shows the national average. So this is useful to see if there's a relationship between the two. For example, you can see a couple of dips here in November and December. But you can also see there were dips in national average as well. So perhaps there was a national promotional campaign and the effects of this were underestimated. But you could also be looking at regional averages for this type of store, which might act fair for benchmarking purposes. And going down to the detailed table at the bottom, that shows the quantity of products in stock at a product level for each month. And I can touch the icon in the corner there, and that brings up full screen. And I'll just rotate my screen so I can see all the months' values here. And at the moment it's filtered based on the audit values in ascending order for January, but I can go ahead and select another month and choose what it orders it by. At the top here we can see a product that's out of stock at the moment, but we can also see it's been out of stock for a few of the last visits as well. So this is something that I want to pick up with the store manager and discuss with them to make sure that they increase either the frequency of their orders or the quantity of their next order in the future. Now I'm going to go back to the dashboard screen and go on to our second dashboard, which is the Trade Promotion Effectiveness report. So again here we've got a filter by store. This time we've got a filter by month as well. And I've decided to make this only act on the top chart that we see here. And the top chart here gives an overview of the investment that's gone into advertising and promotions for products in this store. Now I can see the most money has been spent on half price offers here. And the bottom chart shows us the sell-in and the sell-out data that's been joined up to calculate the retailer's gross profit. And it's focused on products that are currently on promotion or were in the previous period. The aim here is to get an idea of the effect of the promotions on the sales value and the volume and profit in this store. And it shows the value for the current period with the big bars, as well as the previous one, just underneath these big bars, small narrow lines. So I can switch the measures that we're looking at here. So at the moment we're looking at bottom 5 by profit change versus the prior period. So at the bottom here we can see the antiperspirant has actually become unprofitable currently. And if I keep my finger on the bar I can see the values for that, for the current value and the comparison versus the previous period as well. The one at the top here, it's got a relatively high profit value, but the percentage change compared to what it was previously isn't actually that significant. Well, I'll just go ahead and change the top 5 here, so we see top 5 by profit versus prior period. And the top product here, the moisturizer, it wasn't profitable previously, but now has quite a high value. So it might be that it was previously on promotional offer, and even though now it's come off, it's still feeling the positive effects of it. Or it might be that it's a new product. And what I can do here is just touch this bar here, and it takes me to another availability drill down report. And if I just rotate again, so you'll see it's passed the parameters for the store and the product to this report, and I can see the availability for that particular product. And I can see that it's been in stock for all the periods that we've got data for, so it's not a new product. I'll just go back to the dashboard here. And looking at top 5 by sales value, there's a product at the bottom here, the conditioner, which doesn't have a huge sales value compared to the others, but compared to the previous value it's quite a large increase. So it's an indicator of the promotional campaign having a strong impact, and perhaps it wasn't a well-known product before, and keeping the promotion going longer could continue to increase sales. Finally, looking at the bottom 5 by sales value, there's a product that wasn't previously selling, the styling wax at the bottom here, and despite the promo campaign it's still not selling. So perhaps it's just not the right kind of store to be selling it in. And this might not be the case. Again, it might just be that it's out of stock, so I can drill through to the report. I can see we don't actually have values for December and January, so it was the case that it was just not out of stock, and so we're missing out on potential sales here. I'm just going to go back to the slides now. So we looked at a demo there in Datazen, which as I mentioned is available as a native app for Windows, Android and Apple's iOS for free. And what's great for some of you that may already be a Microsoft customer is that it comes as part of the SQL Server Enterprise Edition core licenses with software assurance. So if you have that, there's no extra charges. Otherwise, their pricing is based on number of users. Now, I've found it's got very sleek interface and allows for custom branding, but it is relatively limited in what you can do with each of the components. They have definitely taken a mobile-first approach here. The minimum size for the visualizations are quite large compared to desktop reporting solutions, which means that they're easy to use on handheld devices. And it has an offline mode, which allows for full functionality, but this does depend on how the reports are configured. So the publisher can decide whether the data is going to be downloaded to the device and stored for offline use. However, if you have parameterized queries like we had there, where you want filtering to be carried out on the data source because it's so large, then you can only set it up to work in what they call real-time mode. So the queries are sent to the data source as and when you navigate the reports, and in that case it can only work when you're online. A lot of the tools we've been looking at take a build once, deploy anywhere approach, meaning you don't have to build different sets of reports for mobile and desktop. And as I said before, Datazen's definitely taken a mobile-first approach, but they do still have a hybrid approach of allowing you to choose which objects you see on mobile and desktop and how they're positioned in each of those. But you develop these in the same environment, and the objects you create for each report are shared between the mobile and desktop views, so you don't have to build them separately or from scratch. Now I'm just going to pass you on to my colleague Liz, who will take you through an example of a project we delivered for a life sciences organisation.
So this is a solution we developed for a life science company who have a large sales force of reps who go out into the field, but also is delivering value for their managers as well. I haven't set this one up on the iPad, but the live solution is used on mobile devices. Everyone in the sales department spends a large part of their day in Viva, which has been developed using Salesforce. This is used to record touch points between the sales reps and their customers, whether that's calls while they're in the office or meetings while out in the field. In addition, actual and target sales data is held in their SAP ERP system, but these two sets of data are very distinct and aren't able to be combined. To remedy this, we developed a QlikView application that combines both of these sets of data so they're able to track sales performance against targets alongside the performance of each of the sales reps. The system was initially developed to run on a QlikView server, but in order to increase user adoption and provide better support for the sales process, the decision was made to embed the QlikView application directly into Salesforce. So it just appears as an extra tab within Salesforce, so you can use side by side with the standard Salesforce functionality. From within the QlikView app, the user can also link directly back into Viva to schedule a call as they're analysing different account information, and then that appears and reminds them to do that task later on. So it gives you a nice seamless interface to working between the two different components. So let's have a look. You'll notice here, as I've gone into Salesforce, I've got a reminder that I've got a task that I haven't completed. So when I log in, it automatically will look at all my tasks and look at my events and see what I've done. I'm just going to select that, and I'll get it to smooth me later on. So for those of you who use Salesforce, this will look pretty familiar. This is just in our sandbox area, so there's not an awful lot of activity happening. But you can see where I've got any meetings that are scheduled, my outstanding tasks, summary of information, and those accounts that I've most recently accessed. It's standard functionality here. I can go and actually say not just delete an account, but show me all of the accounts within my system. And I can go in and interact with these, see when they're last contacted. The bit you may not recognise is we've got a new tab here called Sales Activity Analytics, and that's the bit we're interested in looking at today. So what you'll see here is the QlikView application. If you've seen QlikView apps in the past, the layout where you've got multiple tabs covering different functional areas and different types of data reporting is pretty standard. What we have here at our front screen is our high-level dashboard. Our data here on the left-hand side is all being sourced from Salesforce, so it's relating to activity for the sales reps for calls versus their targets. And the data on the right-hand side has all been sourced from SAP, so it's looking at specific sales information. Just general couple of things about QlikView. We've got some ability to have our time selection along the top, and we've got all of our dimensions and selection capabilities down here on the left-hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the retail region. And hopefully you've noticed there that both sets of data have filtered on that selection. So it's filtering both our Salesforce information and our sales data from SAP. What's quite nice as well is for each of these tabs, which are different functional areas, my original selection of retail region holds throughout all of my selections. One of the other things that's quite nice about QlikView is it's got associative filters. So apart from the fact that all of our sales reps are famous golfers, you'll see that 3 of them are still highlighted and the rest are greyed out. So it's telling me that these 3 top sales reps work within that retail region, and those who don't are greyed out. So it's a very nice visual for understanding the data a little bit in more detail. Again, QlikView I think is great for looking at great use of the kind of screen real estate. So I've got a number of different views of my data. So I'm looking at calls, looking at the averages. Am I doing better or worse than usual? How many outstanding calls need to be made? And there's quite a few in that light blue colour. Or I can do some analysis by the number of my customer type, who do we need to call. So it's just very nice, simple visualizations and ways of using the data. So if I want to understand a little bit more about the coverage and frequency, I can go onto my tab which has got that focused information for me. Another nice QlikView feature is they've got the ability to cycle through tables. So at the minute my bottom table is broken down by customer size. I can hit the cycle button and now I'm looking at segments, specialties, users, products. So again, it's using that screen real estate to the best of its ability. What I'm interested in looking at is segments. So segment A are our kind of high value segments, and that's the one I want to focus in on. So what I'm really interested in seeing is which of my accounts under segment A people haven't been phone calling in the last week. So I've got a tab specifically to look at those customers who haven't been contacted. I go in here and I see there's actually quite a lot. There's 72 of them. I'm just going to do my cycle again so I can see what that breakdown looks like. Obviously it's all within segment A. I can see a split by region. And because I want to help out here, I'm going to limit down to the eastern region. And then I want to see which accounts are within there. So you notice this schedule button here. And what this does is allows me to link directly back into my Viva and create a task for myself so I can follow up with this account. If I click on that schedule, you'll notice that I'm now in a Viva new task app. So it was quite quick, so you may or may not have noticed. So here, within the green and grey, we're in our QlikView app, and it's opened up a new Salesforce task for me to complete. So I will call at account 12. I can put in any information. I can fill in the optional. I can say it's signed, and I'm going to save that. And now you can see on my home page, I've got a new task assigned to me that now when I log back in again, I'll get that reminder. So it's a very nice seamless way to be looking at your data, seeing what's outstanding and linking back through into your application. So just a very quick summary of what that was. So what we had was a QlikView application that combines data from Salesforce and also from SAP. We have that QlikView application embedded within Salesforce. It's enabled for use either on the premise or on mobile, and it interacts seamlessly between the QlikView application and creating new tasks within Salesforce. Back to you, Ahmad.
Thanks, Liz. So now I'm going to be taking you through some use cases, a customer example and a demo from the financial services sectors. If you're not involved in the financial services sector, you might be wondering about how exactly field force reporting and mobile come into play here. Well, you won't have the same type of salesperson here that deals with stock in a store, but you will have account or customer relationship managers who deal with various types of customers that use their products, or with partners such as brokers that help them get business. In the insurance industry, for example, the insurers are often housed in a large building together with both other insurance companies and brokers, and they go around talking to each other and making deals. So it's hugely useful to have access to that data at their fingertips when they're not at the desk. So as a customer relationship manager in a bank, I might want to look at what products the customer is using, as well as the history of what they had before. By comparing this to the products that are popular with the type of customer that I'm dealing with, I can suggest new or alternative ones that might benefit them. There might be information around current campaigns in Salesforce, which a reporting solution can narrow down to those most relevant and which have not been discussed with this customer. They can go through these with the customer and find out what might be of interest to them. I may want to look at if a customer is depositing less or more, or taking fewer or more loans than usual, and use that as a starting point to develop my understanding of the customer's business position and their future. If the deposits are increasing, perhaps the company is growing and may soon be looking to put more investment to support this growth. I can also compare the financials to my company's targets to see which customers need the most work to bring them to a position that we'd like them to be in. Looking at the profitability of a customer can be a factor used to determine the financial significance of the client I'm going to be visiting, but it's also a starting point to see where there's need for improvement. You might want to drill down into the lower profit areas, for example by product, to compare it against the average profitability of that product, again to identify areas to work on. An insurance underwriter may want to see what kind of relationships have been made with a broker. Reports that integrate Salesforce data can show how many contacts we have for that company, and this could be split by type of contact to see what areas of business we have or haven't developed a lot of relationships with. And if there's areas where an underwriter isn't getting as much opportunities from a broker as the others are, they can look into their CRM notes on the broker's involvement in that area. If they do have a large involvement there, what are the reasons they're overlooking us for opportunities? Perhaps it's an opportunity to discuss our strengths in this area of the broker. Of course, a lot of this reporting could be done on a desktop, but servicing them to the users on their handheld devices really allows them to save a lot of time having to print out their reports before they leave their desk, and even then they might not think to print out everything that they will end up needing when they're out there talking to customers, partners or brokers. An example of a reporting solution we'll be looking at is based on one used by a huge insurance company in the US, who's a customer of ours. And it's a reporting system created to help their insurance underwriters to keep on top of relationships with the brokers that they deal with. It lets them look at the revenue that's been generated through their relationship, and they can compare that to previous years and other brokers to get an understanding of how the broker's contributing to their overall performance, and whether this is improving or stagnating. And they also integrated it with Salesforce to bring in data about their contacts in these brokers. So we're going to look at a demo based on this customer example using the Tableau product suite. And it's a dashboard created on the desktop product and then published to Tableau Online, which is their software as a service offering. And that means that the reports are hosted on Tableau's servers, but I could have just published it to our servers as well. So I'm going to open up the iPad again. I'm using the free Tableau app on the iPad here to access it, but it is also available for Android devices. And I'll be using this dashboard as an insurance underwriter who might be going to a meeting with a broker, or I might just be in a box in the Lloyd's of London building. These are working areas that are rented out, and I'll be approached by a broker, so I want to have quick access to key stats around that broker. So I'll pull up the report on my tablet, and if I'm not online, I can see a snapshot of the report. This is this view here. But I can't interact with this, so I'm going to go into the live mode. Once I'm in, I can select the broker that I'm interested in. So I'm talking to someone from JB Group. I'm going to go ahead and select them. And if you're an existing Tableau user, you might know this interface looks pretty familiar. There's not a separate development environment for creating reports for mobile, and you just have to make sure that you're building to the correct resolution for handheld devices. And here we're looking at the broker fact sheet, and at the top we've got some key KPIs that we're interested in. So the GPW, or the gross premiums written, is essentially revenue, and policy count and the GPW are expressed as percentages of our total company's numbers. So we can see how much this broker is contributing to get an idea of how valuable their policies are. Because the percentages are similar here, 9.5 and 9.8, we can deduce that the average value of each policy of this broker is similar to the average value of our policies across all the brokers. The trend indicator next to each of these shows the improvement versus previous year. And on the right we've got a ranking based on the revenue, so I know that this broker is very important to our company. It brings in the largest amount of revenue. Just next to that we've got the ELR, which is the expected loss ratio, and that shows what we get in premiums versus what we pay out. So 90% ELR means we make a 10% profit on the policies from this broker. So of course we want to keep the loss ratio as low as possible. And on the right hand side we can see how many policies they've sent our way. That's 349, and how many we've responded to. So we've responded to about 90% of the policies that they've sent us. So that means they're quite good at identifying relevant policies for us. And 50% of or 51% of the total policies are eventually bound. But considering we're responding to 90%, we might want to look at how to close this gap. Going down on the left, you can see the bar chart, and that shows the premiums for the current and the previous year split by different lines or classes of business. We can see an overall positive growth. It's approximately doubled, and that's especially driven by the growth in the casualty and motor and the new marine sector, which we've broken into with this broker. The donut charts, the two of them on the right here, they show the split between the new policies and the renewals in the current and the previous year. And we can see that we've got a fair amount of new policies this year. And below that, in the bottom right, we can see the number of contacts that we have with this broker. So this is information that's coming in from Salesforce using Tableau's Salesforce connector, and that's something we're seeing in an increasing number of tools. So we can see there's 30 active contacts, meaning there's quite a few people that our team's talking to. You can also see the inactive contacts, which tells us they've left the company. So everything looks quite good on a high level, but I can see there's a couple of lines of business where there's been a decrease since last year. So I'd want to look into this further, and you can provide a drill down to see the more details. Aviation's gone down a little, so I'm going to click on that. That's going to update the donut charts on the right hand side. So you can see all the policies that we've got are renewals, both in the current and the previous year. We've just carried over policies from last year. So we seem to keep renewing and not bringing in new business. And I can see there's no active contacts here either, so that probably explains the issue. So when I'm talking to the broker, I might ask them to introduce me to some people that work in this area. Although I do actually have some inactive contacts here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Chris here. I can go to his Salesforce page. So it's going to show me his contact details here. So this is bringing up the contact page for Chris Brown, which I just selected in Salesforce. And I can see who they're working for now. So they're working for a new company called A+ Insurance Services, which might be one that I'm interested in working with as well. So I might want to call him up and get an introduction for that company. If I click on feed, I can also see their history, so I can see when they left the company that we originally had them down as working for. I'm just going to go back to the dashboard now. So the data we've seen in this demo, it comes from 3 different sources. We've got the premium information coming from the core underwriting systems, then the key stats about the number of policies received, replied to and accepted. That'll come from a workflow system, which might be an internal system in your organization, or if you're dealing with an online broker like comparethemarket.com, you might be getting that data from them. And finally, we've got the contacts coming from Salesforce. So to summarize the Tableau mobile demo, as I mentioned, they've got native apps for Android and iOS, but you can also view it on a mobile browser if you've got a Windows device. The mobile experience is very similar to the desktop browser, so the same reports you've already got will work in mobile, though sometimes it might not be as good an experience if they rely on using a lot of space, so they don't work so well on low resolution. And it does have some offline capability, which you saw there, so you can look at a snapshot, but this just shows you the particular view, and you can create your own views in advance, but it doesn't allow for any interaction, so you can't change filters and drill down. And this is only available on iOS devices currently as well, so iPhones and iPads only, and not Android phones and tablets, or in the browser. Although a positive side of this is increased security. It means that the data behind the reports isn't stored on your local device. And finally, this does allow in-app editing, so if you've got the right permissions, you can add and remove dimensions and measures from the existing data model, but it doesn't allow you to author reports from scratch. This can only be done on a desktop application still. And they are regularly coming out with updates, and one of the interesting things we're looking forward to is, in a future releases, data-driven alerts, which means that you'll be able to ask Tableau to alert you when the data is within certain parameters. For example, if the sales value falls below target. So today we've had time to look at demos for Datazen, QlikView embedded in Salesforce, and Tableau mobile. However, there are of course a large number of other options available. Although we won't have time to go into all of these today, I do want to give a brief overview for a few of these that we haven't looked at yet. Salesforce is probably best known for its CRM offering, and earlier we looked at the QlikView workbook embedded and interacting with it. But just over a year ago it broke into the BI sector with their own Salesforce Wave product. This is a separate product used for reporting and analytics, but leverages the existing Salesforce.com platform which is on the cloud. There's a few advantages to this. So it's a proven platform which is built for scalability and also allows for native integration with existing Salesforce solutions. And in designing it, they've gone with a mobile-first approach again, to the extent that you can actually carry out data blending on your handheld device. This is really helpful for self-serve analysis. And they've made it available for iOS, Android, and Windows phones. There's two levels of pricing. Firstly, there's the Analytics app, and that allows for reporting on the data from within Salesforce. And then there's the Analytics platform, which also allows for other data sources to be used, and with fewer limits on number of rows. And both of these are charged on a per user per month basis. Roam-B Analytics is the main reporting solution offered by Roam-B. This provides a really rich interactive experience and was initially created specifically for iPads and iPhones when it first came out in 2009. But since then they've made it available on Windows and Android devices as well. And more recently you can also access it from a desktop browser. They've also got an app called Flow. This lets you combine your analytics reports together with videos, images and text in a nice published format to tell a story about the data. Currently this is only available on iOS devices though. And the authoring for Roam-B Analytics reports and Roam-B Flow publications are all done on a desktop PC still. But last year they introduced a new feature in the iOS version of the Analytics app, and that allows the user to create their own reports from scratch. But with that specific feature, you can only use CSV files as a source. And the apps do have an offline feature, and what's great about it is that because all the rendering is done on the device and the data is stored there too, it's not restricted, so you've got the full functionality that you would have when you're connected to the internet. In terms of pricing, they've got a free light version, that's only for up to 5 users. They've also got a business plan for 10 to 100 users, and then there's an enterprise plan which is for a minimum of 50 users, and that allows for more types of data sources to be used, and also lets you store the data on-premise as opposed to Amazon's cloud service. You might already have an SAP Business Objects implementation, and if you do, you can quickly get started with their mobile implementation. You just have to enable the reports for this, and there's a free app available for Android, iOS and BlackBerry through which you can access the reports. And when you're accessing it through a handheld device, the app optimizes the existing reports you have for mobile display, so you don't have to redevelop them. But there are a few limitations on what visualizations can be viewed on mobiles, so it won't let you enable the report for mobiles if you've used some of these. There's also some restrictions on which data sources can be used. It does have an offline mode again, but this has some limitations as well. So for example, you can't expand nodes when you're in offline mode. And finally, we looked at QlikView embedded in Salesforce earlier, but they do also have a mobile offering called QlikView Mobile. So that's available through a free native app on iOS devices, and there's a browser-based mobile version for other platforms. Again, this leverages your existing reports and customizes it for the device, but note that the app is actually only for QlikView, and it's not available for QlikSense, which is another one of their products, which is aimed at self-serve analytics, although that is also built to work well on mobile browsers. Their app also has an offline mode, and you can limit the amount of data that's stored on your device by selecting the views and the list boxes which you want to bring through to the offline version. That just about wraps up our webinar for today, and I hope we've been successful in giving a taste of what you can achieve by bringing together both traditional and other data sources into mobile reporting solutions for those users who are often out of the office dealing with customers and partners. It can help them save time printing out reports which they need to guide their conversations, but it also gives them the power to respond to opportunities as and when they arise by being able to analyze their data wherever they are. We've seen different organizations and even different departments within organizations can be at different stages of implementing these kinds of solutions. At Thorogood, we do provide an end-to-end service from strategy to design, implementation, training, and data services. So wherever you are on your journey to implementing these solutions, feel free to reach out to us. Before we finish, we've got a schedule of our upcoming events up here, so you can view more details on these and register for them on our website, which is also listed here. And you'll also find an on-demand video section, and that's got quite a few videos exploring some of the topics we touched on today in more detail. Thanks again for attending this webinar, and if you've been inspired by what you've seen and would like some help, please feel free to reach out to Liz or myself and we'd be happy to help you.